Okay, I'm doing an update on the Okidas Z4. This is the one that you see in the first video that I had. It's charging right now. You can hear the chargers running in the background. They're kind of loud, but they work really well. I haven't had any problems out of them. This is probably my fourth or fifth charge. Probably my fifth charge with them since I've gotten it. In September, I think I got it. Oh, actually, I went closer to October. Yeah. A little update since the first one. Since the first video, I was remarked about this here. Keep this thing tight. Check it before you ride every time. It'll take a lot for it to unscrew all the way, and these handles actually fold back, so when you fold this down, it's supposed to be able to be better for the car. It's supposed to be able to put it in your vehicle easier, but I can get it in mine without undoing that. So before I spoke about the brakes, it was the front brakes, which is the ones over here. But as you can see on the other side here, that's not covered by the controller, you have this little screw here. And as I showed in the last video, you have to keep that parallel to the ground. So you want it level when you service the brakes. So what I ended up doing to get the front brakes to work, there was no leak. If there was a leak, it was either leaked out before they put the screw in, coming from the factory, or it was not on tight and leaked out through the screw. And of course, like I said, it was the other side over here. But on the other side, I checked the hydraulic cable, and there was no leaks coming from anywhere on the cable or down by the caliper itself. Okay, so here's what happened and solved my brake problem. Over here, I have a syringe. So I ordered this. Okidas actually sent me out one similar to this, not as nice, as a courtesy to service the brakes because I made them aware of the problem. I got mine before theirs arrived because it came from China and it took too long to come. So what I ended up doing, I have two of these, and to service the brakes, you would undo this screw here, and you would put this into the top of that, like so. And for the caliper side, you would remove these two bolts here on this particular bike, and that takes off the whole caliper. And you would put a brake chock in, which would keep the brakes, it would act as the rotor while it's not on the rotor itself. When it's been removed, the brake chock takes its place. And on the back of this, after you take it off, you will find another screw hole that the syringe will be inserted into. So the bottom one goes in the bottom, top one goes in the top. On the top one, you want to put a little bit of brake fluid in, maybe about no more than 5. No more than 5 milliliters. And on the bottom one, you're going to fill this thing pretty much full of brake fluid. And essentially what you want to do is draw the syringe at top outwards and then compress the one at the bottom. So you're putting new fluid in the bottom and your old fluid's coming out from the top. Once that's done, you want to remove this bottom syringe, trying to keep the brake caliper level, and reinsert the screw stop. The little set screw that closes it up. Okay, so in doing so, you shouldn't get any much fluid out of there, and no air should really get in there if you hold it correctly, because the one at the top will still be in and it will create a vacuum, so it should hold the fluid where it's at. Once you get to that point, you're going to want to pump your brakes. So you're going to want to pump your brakes with the syringe in there, and what you'll see in that fluid is bubbles coming up. So if you completely fill this in your transfer, you're going to have to, after you get that screw hole closed up, you're going to have to remove this syringe and empty it, and then put it, just empty it till you have 5 milliliters in it again, and then you would pump your brakes till bubbles come up, and then you're supposed to be done. But here's what I had to actually do. I didn't have to mess with the bottom at all. All I had to do is remove this little set screw here with 5 milliliters in here, insert it into the hole, and I pumped my brakes till bubbles came up and stopped. And then I actually pushed down on the syringe to inject some of the oil in, and I put just a little bit in there, and then I pumped the brakes again and more bubbles came up. And I did that process a couple times until no more bubbles came up. Then I removed this, and by keeping this level, I put the set screw back in, and I do now have front brakes. So that's all my brake problem. So from the first video, that was my remedy, and that did work. I have no more problems with the front brakes at all, or the back brakes. So what I did also, I learned how to set my cockpit up. And what I did was I moved these brakes here down at an angle a little bit, so I'm standing up. I can still get a nice grip on there if I'm standing, or if I'm sitting, I can still get a nice grip. I use it a lot with the 2 fingers. As you can see, I left some room on the handle grip for 2 fingers to grip and 2 fingers to pull without interfering with the 2 fingers that are gripping. Same with the other side. That adjustment is done with this little set screw right here. Clockwise, it pushes this out. Counterclockwise brings it in closer. It's the same on both sides, clockwise and counterclockwise. So, also what I adjusted, I moved this over this way to achieve that, to be able to have that grip and the brake with the other 2 fingers. I moved all this over, adjusted this to where from here I can still reach the turn signal and still be able to reach the brakes. And that's achieved by using the 2 middle fingers. It allows you to still be able to brake and still reach the turn signal, okay? On the other opposite side, for the front brake, this is where your controller is at. I got my controller up kind of high, and then I still have it to where I can brake with my center fingers. And the key to braking is, I found on this is your rear brakes. You're going to essentially want to use these first. By pressing this in, it engages the electronic brake before you even engage the physical brake. So the electronic brake will take effect on the front wheel and the rear wheel if you have it in 2-wheel drive. If you have it in a single-wheel drive, all it's going to do is put the electronic brake on the rear wheel and apply the brake to the rear wheel. I recommend always braking with this one first, because what's going to happen if you don't, if you try to brake with this one first, for one, it's going to be your front brake and you're going to lose control, especially on wet surfaces. And also, you may tend to throttle up while you're trying to get that brake fully. See how my hand kind of like, because your natural tendency is going to be to try to grab it. Even with these 2 fingers, you're going to end up hitting that throttle before you can actually brake, put pressure on this brake. And what's going to happen is it's going to launch you forward, and then if you do hit this without hitting the rear brake, you're going to lose control. And this happened to a friend of mine today. It was his first time out riding. I got my bike, I ordered it in August, and I think I got it at like the beginning, actually I think it was towards the end of September. So it took mine about 2.5 weeks to come, maybe a little over 2 weeks. I ordered it with the upcharge to get here from California, and it would be it was $300 extra. And it's supposed to arrive in 3 to 8 days. It arrived in, I think it was, and that's business days. So it was about 2 weeks that arrived, 2 weeks worth of business days. And my buddy ordered his at the same time, and just got his today actually. So the thing I was telling you about these brakes is I'm drawing attention to this because setting up your cockpit is very important. My buddy about killed me today. And about killed himself. His first day out, and he had it adjusted to where it was kilometers per hour for the readout up here. And what had happened was he was going 40 miles an hour right off the bat, and he doesn't use his seat. I use my seat normally. He took his whole mounting bracket off here, and he just uses the flat board, the deck. So long story short, he has a motorcycle and he's used to this being his front brake over here and his clutch over here. So he was thinking this was his rear brake since the other one was his front brake. And it's actually the opposite. This is your front brake over here on the right. And what he did was, like I said, he, in trying to grab the front brake, thinking it was a rear brake, his finger slid off the trigger to grab the brake. It launched him. I was in front of him, and it launched him from. So I was in front of him. He was behind me, off to the right. And what it did is it launched him forward towards me as I was making a left turn. And then when he hit his brake to try to stop, he hit his front brake, and he kind of tipped and slid into me, and he caught my elbow. And what it did was it pushed my handlebars this way. It threw me off the scooter that way, face first into the concrete, and then my scooter fell that way. I hit face first on the concrete, and then my knee hit second. Luckily I had my full riding gear on, and I can't stress this enough, folks. You got to wear your full riding gear, because this is dangerous. It's like a motorcycle. It's not to be underestimated. I had a full face helmet on, and I totally annihilated my shield on the helmet, but it saved me. It stressed my neck a little bit, my back a little bit, but it saved me from doing some serious injuries to me. And having my full suit on. I don't have my helmet up here with me. But I do have the suit. This is good gear here. You can get it off Amazon. It's HWK. So this is all padded. And again, forgive me for not doing a professional video, but I don't edit my videos. I just try to do them on the fly because there's more about information and not the quality of the video. But this is padded on the knees and the hips. And I did take a spill, and I would have had some pretty bad road rash today, but these pants saved my knee. And the jacket's also good to have. HWK, padded elbows, and padded back on that. I actually ordered the backpack today, which will be coming in sometime this week. And that's added security too. It's like a hard shell backpack, so if you fall off, it protects your back. You can also store clothes in it, shoes, whatever you want to put in there, the laptop. So I don't know if I had this in my first video. I think I did. This is just my cell phone mount. You put your phone in there, it opens up. This is a great little mount for the most part. So it's got a lock on the back. Let's see if I can show you it. You see it there, and you flip that lock, and it locks this thing, so it's supposed to not open up. And for the most part, it doesn't. But if you do get it in a wreck, like I'm gonna tell you, I took 2 spills on this thing. One was the one I just told you about, where I went face first in the concrete. Luckily, I didn't get hurt, other than my back's a little stressed right now, but I'll get over it. So, and when that fell, the way these are designed, there's not much that can hit the ground. It's going to be your handle grip or your brake, and you can see my brake got it and my handle grip got it today. And the only other thing that can hit, and I can't really tell if it's got damage, so I clean it, but it looks like it didn't take any damage there. So it's just really the handlebars that can hit the ground when you fall. Unless you do like I did the first time. I was actually riding the other night in the dark, and I was trying to be kind of discreet, so I had my front lights off, and I was riding in the grass. You know, I figured, oh, it's safe. You know, I'm riding slow. I was doing about, I don't know, 16, 19 miles an hour in the grass. And I figured the worst thing that could happen is I had full gear on. If I fell off, I'd kind of roll. But what had happened is this tire fell into a hole up to about here. Get a better perspective here. Up to about halfway up the tire. And this whole thing actually, because I was standing up, went forward, and you can see the dirt here, the dirt there, and this did have some dirt on it. I still can see it there. My controller, and then the other brake. So this whole thing just tipped forward into the grass, and I went rolling into a somersault. And I got up, I was fine, but like I was saying with this, what happens is this thing will actually tend to separate if it's stressed, and then it actually stays open in the open position, but because it's still locked. I don't know if I can show you this, but without unlocking it, if you take the impact, it could end up like this in the locking position, and that's what happened. And my phone just went out, and it was dark. I lost it in the grass. I didn't realize it. I thought it was still in the holder. Just because it was dark out, I couldn't tell that it wasn't there still. And I ended up, long story short, I had another scooter at home. When I got home, I had to go back with that scooter to find my phone, because I realized it was still out there. And then I used the watch. There's a little thing on the watch. It's hard to show you with one hand here. Yeah. That little icon where it looks like a phone with the waves on the side of it. You tap that on the Apple Watch. It makes your phone emit a sound. And that's how I found it in the dark. I actually just did that a few times. I could hear it on the ground. And I picked it up. So I was able to recover my phone that way. Accident happened today. The same thing happened. This thing stayed locked open. So for the most part, if you don't wreck with it, it'll stay in there from bumps. It won't. The phone won't fall out. So that's, let's see, it's called Lamico. I guess that's what it's called. I found that on Amazon. It's been a pretty good holder. I found this on Amazon also, which I have. It's a camera. It's a rear camera, and I just kind of wired it through down here. And I wanted to take it around the deck here underneath, and then come up like over here and then go that way. But it was too short to go around that way, so I went across the deck with a little bit of Gorilla tape, and all I had at the time was white, so I'm going to put black on there after I clean this deck off. But the rear-facing camera's back here, and it normally mounts on the seat. Right now it's broke from the accident today, so this thing has to get fixed. So I do have a way of fixing that, so I'll fix it for tomorrow when I go riding again. So that's a neat little added feature. And if I take this and turn it on, this recharges. You can see the little bar up here. So it recharges fairly quickly, and it lasts 3 or 4 rides easily if you leave it on the whole time. But that's going to see behind you. I move the camera a little bit. You can see that when that's hooked up, you can see out of it. And it has night vision, so you can see at night. This is a nice camera for if you're riding slow and you're looking for out behind you for other people approaching. But if you're looking to use it to see cars coming up behind you, the only disadvantage of this camera is that it's fish-eyed, so you can actually see things bend around you. I can't show you right now, but when I approach the scooter from the back here, and that camera is like right on the seat, I can actually get off to the side of the seat like this, and it shows up in the very side of the camera, like over here, on this side of the camera here. So it's got a really, really wide angle lens on it. Yeah, nothing bad to say other than I don't think they needed to put the fisheye lens on it. If so, they could have used a lot less contour, and it would have been easier to get a better judgment on how cars are approaching. That's the only thing I noticed is, but you can adjust your brightness here, your contrast. So, like for daytime, you can turn it way up, and then your brightness, your backlight, and I think that's it, or your contrast, saturation. It's basically like a TV. Okay, so that is pretty handy. That's one of the additions I added to the scooter. So this rack, this rear view, and I don't know if I had this in the first one, but I have a bottle holder in the front here. It works out really well. Allows me to fold down the scooter without compromising anything. So as you can see, this thing's pretty dirty now. It's been well ridden. I've got about 120 some miles on it. So I've got a little bit of experience on it. I can kind of see what needs addressed and what actually works out really well. So some of the flaws with this thing, I would just have to say the biggest flaw is the connection for the steering column. And how this works is, if you release the pressure on the steering column just a little bit, you can flip this lever down, which in turn moves this pin forward, and then it falls down and it locks into the up position here. Okay, so now the flaw with this is it comes stock with this right here. Okay, and I'm telling you this right now, this is going to fail. I'm not saying this is a bad scooter. I'm just saying this part's a bad design. The scooter is actually really held up to the abuse I've given it. So I actually engineered a way to fix this, but the problem with the way that I fixed it is you can't just fold it down easily like you can with this thing in here. So if this is in here and you push in on that, it would go all the way in and it would lock. But the problem I was having was, at first it locked good, and after hitting a few bumps, taking it out for my first couple rides, then this thing would easily be able to fold back. It wasn't really locking it. It would almost sometimes flop open. So then I noticed that there's play in the steering column. It was moving forward and backwards like this. It was moving forward and backwards. So it was sloppy. So I tightened up the bolt. Pull this back out. On the bottom of this, it was about right here, and I tightened it to about there. Went out and took all the slop out of it. I went out riding again, and the same thing happened. It got really loose. So then I noticed that it bent it a little bit. It bent the rod. I tightened up the nut one more time up to almost as far as it would go. Took the slop out again, went riding, and halfway through my ride, I heard it pop, and a pin sheared, or the bolt sheared off right here. I lost the nut and the tip of the bolt, so this thing was just from here up in the hole. So I was able to get back home and able to take care of the problem. So what I did for my first fix temporarily until I got this piece, I had to have them send me this other piece, which I'm not going to use. I'm going to end up taking out, unscrewing this from here, finding a rod with the threads on both ends like this, and get a hardened rod, a hardened threaded rod, and that will solve the problem, or at least it'll last a lot longer before I have any more problems out of it again. That's going to be the final solution, I think, and hopefully that works. It should give me the ability to fold this thing down very easily again. But for now, I don't have the bolt with me. It's out in my car. I just put a hardened bolt with a hex head through here. And this right here, it's hard to see in this light, but it's actually sunk down and it's recessed in this little pocket here, and you have metal on both sides, so you really can't get a socket in there because the bolt itself almost touches both sides, and my socket just wouldn't fit in there to hold that top from moving. But what I did is I put that rod down through here, and it goes through this little chalk down here. It's hard to see this also, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can see it goes through this thing, and then it pulls this bar up to the bottom of this assembly, and it holds this in place and takes the slop out of it. So I used a hardened bolt and a hardened nut with a lock washer and a lock nut with a nylon, the inside of the nuts, they got nylon so it grips the threads, and that actually solved the problem. I took all the slop out of it. I rode on it for at least 6 good rides with it like that, and it never loosened up on me. It worked perfectly, but I had to take an impact to remove it, and then it takes a little bit to pop that bolt out of the top. It's not easy, so it's not portable from that point on. I can't put it in my vehicle without breaking it down like that, so it makes it very inconvenient, but it makes it safe. It's not every day I take this thing out into the vehicle. Most of the time I take it outside and I ride it and I bring it back in. So that's just one thing that's going to be addressed on all these until they decide they're going to change the design. So that was one of the problems that I had, and that was the way to fix it. Any other problems I've had was this minor. Really, the headlights will loosen up on you. So, and the horn, I had to take the horn off and bend the bracket a little bit because it was banging against the back of these lights, and it comes loose too. This little hex head bolt here comes loose over time. So you might want to put a lock washer on that, or just tighten it really good, and then the headlights can be adjusted. There's a bolt on both sides for those, and once you tighten those, they stay pretty well after that. Like you see, these are pretty tight. That's just a minor thing that's taken care of, so I don't have a problem with that anymore. One other thing that I had talked about in my first video, besides bleeding the brakes, was I had actually been out that day before I made the video, and I'll show you in the back here. Okay, so you can see these valves here. Let me get a closer look. I got this thing charging, so I got my light on the other side of the scooter, so it's hard to see. But you can see this valve right here. Well, maybe. Let me see if I can get it. As soon as I put my hand down there, it takes the light away. There it is. Okay. Well, anyways, you can kind of see that valve there. You can see much better in my first video. But that's a bent valve. That's the design of it. And what that does is it's supposed to allow you to be able to put air in your tire, and it extends it out far enough to be able to put air in there, but it also is bent to keep it from hitting the fork, is what I'm assuming. But from the first video, you've seen that it actually, I hit a boulder and they had it installed from factory the wrong way. It was pointed the direction of the tire, and it bent it back and it just ripped, and all the air came out of my tire, and kind of ruined the rest of my day, because I was assuming I had to order some new ones all the way from China. So I did order them, and before they came in, it was either that day or the next day, I went looking for a comparable valve, and I came across this one here, which sticks out just enough. It clears the fork, and it allows you to fill the tire with no problem. You can see that you can get a pump on that easily, and it's flexible. It can take a hit without ripping. That's nothing that it can hook onto like another one. It act as a hook, and it bent it back, and that's what let all the air out. So that was how I solved that, and I found those at my local Tractor Supply. I can tell you what kind they are here. They are TR413s, and these are a little larger than the ones that came with it. I think the ones that came with it are .425 or .435 or something around there. It's a smaller diameter, but this particular one worked out really good all around. It sealed really well. The collar on this one is the difference of the sizes in the collar here, and probably in the total diameter, but I was able to get this in there by taking a C-clamp. And again, I'm doing this on the fly. I'm sorry that I didn't make any preparations for the video, or it's not professional. And my kitchen ain't the cleanest, but it's because I got stuff laying around. But anyways, I took the C-clamp here, and I clamped it on the tire. And I flattened the tire out to about this big, and I was able to get, I couldn't get my fingers in there to line it up right, so I took some long needle nose pliers, and I was able to insert it backwards like this into the void, and then move it forwards up through the hole where the valve is supposed to be. I grabbed it with my fingertips, and then I took the long needle nose pliers and put them onto the front, gripped them, and kind of went back and forth like that and pulled out, kind of bent them towards the forks, towards the tire, towards the rim. And it was using leverage, I was able to pop that thing in place. Once it goes in, you'll hear a pop, and it'll be nice and sturdy in there. You'll know that it's in. You'll fight it. Believe me, you'll fight it to get it in there. And once it's in, you'll know it. It'll seat itself. And then all I had to do is take the clamp off the tire and just kind of pushed it into place a little bit, and then aired it up, and it was fine. And ever since, it's been great. I had no problems out of it at all. So that was how I fixed that issue from the first video. I think that's all I'm going to do right now. The first accident I told you about, where the scooter went into a hole. I did break this off when it fell. Handlebars first. So I did glue this on here. The nice thing about it is where it attaches. I don't know if I can show you on this real good, but where it attaches in this assembly, actually this thing here attaches to the bike, and these other two screws attach it to the mount. So if I take these two screws out here, this piece that's left over is attached to the controller box. On the back of that piece that's on the controller box, it has a little lip like this. So when you, essentially you're not going to be able to pull that apart without opening this up, but the force that it hit pulled that whole thing out of there. So I had to take the screws on the back of this. I loosened this thing up and had to pull the back of it off. And then I was able to take some super glue and glue this bracket into place, and then put the back on. And once the back is secured again, it actually holds really well and holds this controller on there. And it fixed it pretty much 100%. But the wreck I got into today, I think I actually busted some of that super glue loose, or maybe all of it. Yeah, super glue busted loose today. So I think the only thing that's holding it right now is that lip that is being trapped by the bolts. So I'm gonna have to pull this thing apart again and re-glue it. That's what happens when you get a buddy that gets the same scooter as you and doesn't respect the power of this machine. I don't know why my camera is so blurry right now. Let me try to wipe it off. Maybe it's something on the lens, I don't know. It's just terrible. Okay, so another little tip I could give you before we call this video over is these chargers. One usually turns green before the other. Don't unplug them, let them both charge till they both turn green. I have a feeling that's essential to keep the battery health good. So just remember that when they both turn green, unplug them. Don't leave them plugged in over that. If I turn this on, it's going to tell me my voltage here. 65.9 it says right now. Alright, well 66. So 67.2 is the highest it's supposed to go without overcharging the battery. Now obviously that's a max, you don't want to even get close to that. So mine charges normally about 66.5, 66.6 as when the green lights will both come on, and then I know it's charged. And about 55.5 is where you're going to want to charge your scooter. That's the lowest you want it to go without damaging the battery. So a good rule of thumb to think of this is 55 to 65 is about your range of voltage before, from full to empty. So charging it, I usually let it get about 55.7. And I'm talking like without any load on it, that's what it reads. If you put a load on it, it's going to drop, of course. And in the display here, if I turn that on, it'll show right now it's almost full. But it's still like 0.5, 0.6 from full right now. I put 119 miles on this, so I put a little bit of run time on it, and I'm getting to learn how to ride safely. That's the main thing, is to just be able to ride safely. Okay, I'm going to shut this off since it's charging. One other thing I wanted to tell you before we go is I told you about this whole rod situation here. Well, what I did is I put a bolt through here, thinking that if I put a bolt through there that this little pin can't move forward, which will keep this thing from closing on me. So although it didn't take any slop out of it, it essentially made it safe for me to ride and not have to worry about it collapsing during my ride. But little did I know, I should have left this piece just in there loosely when I was riding, because if this pin's not in here, then there's no shaft going through this centerpiece right here, and the result of that is this piece will start to move one way or the other, and eventually, if it goes too far, if it gets through both of these, this whole steering column could fall off of here. So don't do what I did and put a bolt through here and tighten it. It's not safe that way, because this will fall out of here. I guarantee that if you keep riding like that, that will fall out. So if you do a temporary bolt, make sure you got something in here. So I wouldn't recommend that, doing a temporary thing like I did anyways. It was just to get me by. It was experimental, and now I'm seeing what needs to be done. So like I said, the best way to go right now is the bolt through, or replacing this with a hardened shaft. The other thought that I had that I didn't tell you earlier was to do a hardened shaft. Instead of having this thing here, just have a little T on the end of it like this, so it would just rest across the top and then the shaft would go down. So when you took the nut off the bottom, you could remove that T shaft, just pull it straight up, and that would apply pressure to the top and the bottom. It would hold it very tight, and it would be fairly easy to take off if you had to transport it somewhere. So that's my other thought, and I might opt for that instead of trying to fix this lever, because I don't really think this lever is anything that was designed to work properly. It's just, it was a thought. I see where they're going with it. Other companies use something similar, but their execution of it was very bad. No problems with the seat. Well, actually, there is a small issue, but it's not that big. This right here, I don't know if I explained it earlier in this video or not, because this is like the fourth time I've recorded this video, but I did talk about this. I'll be brief in case I did talk about it earlier in this video, but this plastic piece here is not adequate to allow this thing to cam down and squeeze this together. It just flattens out this plastic, so there's no type of bushing in there really. And it's using this cam right here rubbing across the plastic. It's wearing it down. It's what's happening. If this was a thicker rubber gasket between this black part here, let me get it better. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, darn it. Let's see. Between the black part and the silver part there, if that little gasket was in between there, it wouldn't cause any wear. It would just compress. And if it was bigger, it would actually put enough tension on here to hold this thing really well. But if you hit some major bumps off-road or even on-road, your seat's going to drop down a couple inches eventually over time. And that's because it doesn't grip tight enough. So, something minor. And I think with the right replacement parts, I can make that work better. It's just, it's a Chinese design scooter. It's not German engineering, folks. It's not Japanese engineering. I'm not saying that Chinese engineering is bad, but a lot of stuff we get here in America from China seems to lack certain quality. Not everything, but a lot of stuff. And that's what you got to watch out for, is little things like that. The seat doesn't feel like it's going to fall off or anything, so that's good. One last thing I did to this kind of modify, you can see it. I put a little silver stripe in the center of the turn signal and a silver dot above it, so that way I can kind of see what position that the turn signal's in. It has no indication that you're turning. It doesn't show anything up here on the controller. And my other scooter used to make a when I did that, so it would make a noise to let me know that the turn signal was active, either left or right. It wouldn't tell me which side I was turning, but it at least had a sound that was active. It would show me that I'm turning, and I would know this thing's left on, and I would click it back off. Sometimes I'm riding and I make a turn, but I either push it too far this way, or I forget to do it at all. And what happens is people probably think I'm either turning when I'm not, or I just know for the fact that I left my turn signal on. So it's kind of embarrassing in a way, but just something to think about. It was an easy modification. Just makes things simpler. I can monitor it better, pay more attention to it. Well, thanks for watching this second video on the Okidas Z4. Like I said, I got about 114 miles on it, I think it was 100 some miles on it. Just doing local rides. I did one long ride, and by a long ride I mean it's about 8 miles each way. I never have a problem with range anxiety. I can literally ride this thing all day and feel comfortable with it, that it's not going to run out of battery. It's one thing they did right on here was put an amazing size battery and amazing power. Power that's got to be respected though, because it is dangerous. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I don't have to have you like or subscribe. I do this just for the fun of it. I'm not looking to get people to follow me, but if you want to, more power to you. I appreciate it. If you like the video, tell me you like it. If you don't, tell me why you don't like it then, and maybe I can make some improvements. But as far as the recording quality goes, I don't think I'm looking to do anything better with editing the videos or anything, because I don't have time to do that. I'm just doing this out of the sole purpose of maybe helping somebody else that's going to buy this scooter, helping somebody make a decision on whether they want to buy it or not, or giving them tips on how to have a better ride and a safer ride. As you can see, I also strapped one of my speakers to the back there, and that works out really well. I think I'm actually going to move it to somewhere up in here maybe, or even underneath here, to keep some of the mud off of it, because that back wheel really kicks up some mud. Okay, thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a great night, great day, whatever it is, where you're at, and thanks for watching. Take care.